Hi, this is David Haldane. Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about something called conversion therapy. For those of you who don't know what that is, and I did not either, conversion therapy is a kind of a psychotherapy based on converting people from being homosexual or transgender to not being that. And it has an interesting history. It started in the United States. I believe it started there some years ago. Often it's Christian-based. And the whole idea is to help people be the person that God wants them to be, which is not homosexual or transgender. Obviously, this is very controversial. And the reason it's important right now is because a very interesting case that has come up in the United States is now before the Supreme Court. Let me preface that by saying conversion therapy was very controversial, so controversial that a number of states, so far about 27 in the United States, passed laws outlawing it, forbidding it for minors. Many of these states, you can't talk to a minor and urge that to not be homosexual or not be transgender. One of the states that passed such a law is Colorado, and fairly recently, a Christian therapist in Colorado challenged that. She said, "This is a violation of my free speech. I'm a Christian. I am offering therapy to minors with their parents' consent about exploring their sexuality. And of course, the goal is to get them to not be homosexual." As I said earlier, that's very controversial because there's kind of two schools of thought. A lot of therapists and a lot of homosexuals or transgenders say that it's impossible to change that. On the other hand, there are some psychologists, including this one, and some gay people and transgenders who say, well, yeah, it is possible because I changed my outlook on it. I'm a lot happier. So anyway, this therapist challenged it in court. At first she lost on the trial level and several appeals she lost. Then it went to the Supreme Court. And this month, the Supreme Court had a hearing on it. And according to several written reports that I've read, the justices, who are fairly conservative, seem to agree with her. Now, they haven't issued a ruling yet, but it sounds like they're likely to outlaw the ban of this kind of therapy. And if that happens, that could have a tremendous effect, especially in the United States, where there's really a cultural war going on right now. And this case is at the center of it, and possibly even in the rest of the world, because often, as you know, what happens in the US does have repercussions throughout the world. So it's a very interesting case. And when I started, I was kind of on the fence about it because I can kind of see both sides. You know, there are people who say it's terrible, it's harmful, and then there are other people who say, well, it helped me. I wasn't really very decided on this until I became aware of something that kind of pushed me over the edge into supporting the overturning of the ban. Apparently, in Colorado, it's perfectly legal for a therapist to offer therapy to a minor and encourage them to transition to a different gender. So that's fine, no problem. But if you try to encourage them not to do that, that's illegal. One of the Supreme Court justices said, that sounds like you're discriminating against a certain viewpoint. I think that the best thing that the state can do on this issue is not say anything, not be involved. I think therapists should do whatever they feel best, and I think there are some minors who are struggling with their sexuality, and maybe they want a therapist who is going to encourage them not to be transgender, especially transgender. And there may be others who feel differently. I personally have a lot of problems with minors with therapists and other professionals who encourage minors to become transgender, even to the point of having surgery. I think that's terrible. And I think I'm totally opposed to that, have been for a long time. And yet, that's a tendency in the United States that's been growing. Let me say one other thing. Just recently I read a study that sheds some further light on the whole trend towards transitioning among young people. And what this study showed was that, what do you know, back in 2019, 2020, it became very hip and socially desirable to transition. So guess what? A lot of young people, teenagers, transition. What do you know? A few years later, now that it's not quite as socially trendy as it was, fewer and fewer kids are transitioning or even claim to be transgender. And I, for one, am very happy to see that this is finally being looked at by the Supreme Court, which will come up with a decision, and I hope, and I believe and hope it will be the right one. Thank you. I'm very interested in hearing any of your thoughts on this. Please leave comments. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much.